The galaxy had always thought little of Earth, a quiet, green world tucked in the spiral arm of the Milky Way, orbiting an unremarkable star. To the ancient empires of the Orion Arm, humanity was nothing but a curious footnote in the long chronicle of galactic civilization, a race scarred by its own endless wars, too primitive to matter, too fractured to be of consequence. For centuries, Earth had remained silent. No ambassadors strode into alien halls, no fleets patrolled alien skies. Humanity stayed within its sole borders, rebuilding from the fires of old conflicts that had nearly destroyed them. To outsiders, it looked like fear. To those within, it was resolve. And so, when the Dominion of Cravath sent its war fleets into Sol, they expected little more than a token resistance. The first strike came without warning. 100 Cravathi cruisers broke through the outer Sol. Defense grid, vaporizing automated satellites and torching the moons of Neptune with plasma fire. The alien commander sneered at the thought of cowing an isolated species into surrender. Earth, after all, had no allies, no standing treaties, no galactic voice to plead for it. But what the Cravath did not know was that Earth had been watching. For decades, humanity's telescopes and listening arrays had tracked every fleet movement, every clash of alien powers. Humanity had studied war, not with fear, but with obsession. Their war rooms were filled with simulations of alien battles, dissected and analyzed until human generals knew them better than the empires themselves. When Admiral Kieran Holt stepped onto the bridge of the Vigilant Dawn, humanity's flagship, the galaxy shifted on its axis. Status? Holt's voice was low, roughened by years of command. All fleets in position, Admiral. First and Second Armadas standing by at Mars orbit. Third Armada concealed behind Luna's dark side. The Cravath fleet advanced, their sensors blind, to the hidden human formations. They expected a token skirmish, a desperate defense before the inevitable fall. They did not expect silence. They did not expect patience. Holt's eyes never left the tactical display. Hold fire until they breach inner defense. Let them believe we are weak. The bridge crew tensed. To bait the enemy into confidence was risky. But Holt understood something the Cravath did not. Humanity's strength had never been in shining weapons or mighty ships. It had always been in its ruthless calculation, its willingness to go further than anyone else. The first shots from the Cravath struck Earth's orbital defenses. Towers of plasma licked across the void, annihilating outdated platforms that had been placed as decoys. Alien commanders roared in triumph. Their victory seemed assured. And then the trap closed. From behind Luna's shadow, the Third Armada erupted. Massive carriers and destroyers, their hulls blackened with radar-absorbing alloys. From Mars, humanity's Second Armada surged forward, cutting through the Cravath flank like a knife through silk. The galaxy would later say that the sound of human cannons shook the stars. Railguns thundered, launching slugs at near-relativistic speeds. The Cravath shields, designed for energy weapons, crumbled under the brutal simplicity of kinetic force. Ships split in half. Crews were ripped apart as bulkheads collapsed. The Cravath had never faced weapons like these. Admiral Holt stood firm, watching alien ships fall one by one. But he did not smile. There was no joy in this war, only inevitability. The humans had prepared for this day for centuries. Every weapon was designed with precision, every maneuver drilled 1,000 times. The galaxy believed Earth had been licking its wounds in weakness. But in truth, humanity had been sharpening its teeth. Push them toward Saturn, Holt ordered. Force them into the ring mines. The crew obeyed. The retreating Cravath had no idea what awaited them. As they fled toward the rings of Saturn, mines detonated. Mines that had lain dormant for decades, buried in the ice and rock, invisible to scanners. Whole cruisers vanished in blossoms of fire, their wreckage scattering across the rings like shattered jewels. The Cravath fleet, once so proud, was broken. 100 ships reduced to less than 20 in the span of hours. The survivors limped toward the edge of the system, desperate to escape. Holt gave the final order. "Leave them one ship. Let them carry the story home." That was how the galaxy first learned the truth. The Cravath survivors returned to their empire, their tale spreading like wildfire. They spoke of human ships that moved like hunters, of weapons that tore through armor as though it were paper, of an enemy that fought with no hesitation and no mercy. The galaxy listened, and for the first time in centuries, it shuddered. For if this was humanity's response to an unprovoked strike, what would they do when they chose to go on the offensive? In the weeks that followed, alien ambassadors flooded Earth with messages of alarm and curiosity. Some sought alliances, others threatened vengeance, but all whispered the same words across the stars. Humanity has stepped into the war. The empires had always believed themselves to be the apex of civilization, the dominion of Cravath, the syndicate of Thry, the concord of Aeolus. All had fought endless battles for dominance. Yet none of them had ever faced a foe forged in self-destruction, a species that had clawed its way out of its own ashes countless times. Humanity was not entering the war as another contender. They were entering as something far worse, something no one had accounted for. A predator among predators. On the bridge of the vigilant dawn, Admiral Holt gazed out at the stars. Beyond them lay endless wars, endless enemies, endless opportunities. He thought of the generations that had lived and died preparing for this moment. He thought of the children of Earth, watching from their cities, not knowing whether tomorrow would bring peace or fire. "Signal the fleets," Holt said at last. His voice was calm, unshaken. "We are no longer defending Sol. We are marching outward. Humanity will not wait for the next invader to come knocking." The order rippled through the armadas, through the soldiers, through the hearts of billions. And, as the first human war fleet jumped into hyperspace, the galaxy trembled. Not because humanity was strong, but because humanity had finally chosen to fight. They had sworn never to awaken us. It was an oath whispered in the marble halls of the First Galactic Council when the empires were still young and fragile. They had seen Earth long ago in the Age of Fire. They had looked upon humanity as it tore itself apart with steel and flame, only to rise stronger every time. And in that moment, the empires made a pact. Leave humanity alone. Not out of mercy, but out of fear. But oaths fade, promises crumble, time erases wisdom. And so, when war swept across the Orion Arm 10,000 years later, the old vow was forgotten. The dominion of Zaith came first, a reptilian empire, ruthless and hungry. It expanded like wildfire, consuming frontier colonies by the dozen. Its war fleets darkened skies, its banners planted on worlds reduced to ash. And when the Dominion's gaze fell on the colony of Halora, they thought little of resistance. Halora was a small mining world, rich in ore, but insignificant in the grand game of empires. The Zaith sent 3 cruisers to bring it to heel. To them, it was just another victory, another stepping stone in a war that spanned systems. But Halora was different, for Halora was a human colony. The first cruiser descended with banners unfurled, demanding surrender. Their commander, draped in golden scales, mocked the settlers who gathered at the landing field. "You are not of the Council. You are not of the Concord. You are dust scattered at the edge of the stars. Kneel, and you may serve." The humans did not kneel. They fought. With mining lasers turned into weapons, with drilling machines converted into tanks, they resisted. They bled, they died, but they would not bow. The Zaith laughed. Resistance meant nothing against warships. Within a day, the skies above Halora burned with orbital fire, and in the ashes of that battle, a desperate signal was sent. Not to the Concord, not to the Dominion's enemies. But to Earth, the galaxy had forgotten Earth. It believed humanity lived quietly in isolation, content to hide behind Sol's walls. But those who lived on the colonies knew the truth. Earth was no slumbering backwater. It was a fortress. The I signal reached the High Command in less than a day. Admiral Rhea. Vera listened in silence as the last words of Halora's governor crackled through the transmission. They come for us. They come for our children. If this is the end, let it be known, we did not kneel. For a moment the chamber was still. Then Admiral Vera spoke. Prepare the fleets. The Zaith expected no answer. That was their mistake. 1 week later, when the Dominion sent reinforcements to secure Halora, they found the sky filled with ships. Not alien ships of shining silver or organic flesh, but black iron war hulks, bristling with cannons, their engines, burning with white fury. Human ships. The humans did not parley. They did not posture. They struck. Railguns fired first. Slugs traveling so fast they ripped through cruisers before alarms could sound. Plasma lances followed, burning holes through armored hulls. Boarding pods slammed into enemy ships, disgorging soldiers clad in exosuits, fighting like demons in the dark corridors. The Dominion of Zaith, who had crushed dozens of species, who had never known fear, recoiled. At the heart of the battle, Admiral Vera stood upon the bridge of the Resolute. She remembered the oath. She remembered the old legends whispered in the academies that once, long ago, the empires had promised never to interfere with humanity, never to awaken their warlike nature. She realized now why. Drive them into the asteroid belt, she ordered. Her fleet obeyed. The Zaith cruisers fled into the rocks, where hidden mines, placed generations ago, waiting for such a day, detonated in brilliant fire. The battle ended. In hours. The Dominion's fleet was shattered. Halora's skies cleared. The human banners rose again, but the war was only beginning. The survivors of the Zaith fled across the stars, carrying stories of Earth's vengeance. They spoke of weapons that ignored shields, of soldiers who fought as if war was carved into their bones, of admirals who showed no hesitation, no mercy. The galaxy listened, and the galaxy remembered. Old words, once dismissed as myth, returned. To the halls of the Concord. Do not awaken the humans. Do not draw them into the war. If they march to conquer. But it was too late. In the weeks that followed, Earth revealed what it had hidden for centuries. Fleets emerged from Sol, vast and disciplined. Colonies across the stars rallied to their banner. Humanity had not been idle in isolation. They had been preparing. The Council sent envoys, pleading for restraint. The Concord offered treaties. The Syndicate threatened annihilation. But humanity answered with silence. Only Admiral Vera spoke, her words. Broadcast across the galaxy, we did not ask for war. We did not seek vengeance. But the Dominion came to our worlds, and so we rise. We rise not as subjects, not as pawns, but as warriors. The oath you swore has been broken. Now the debt is due. The Dominion of Zaith reeled as human fleets advanced, system by system. Battles that should have lasted months ended in days. Worlds fell not to glassing, but to precision strikes. Human commanders did not burn for the sake of terror. They fought to cripple, to break the spine of the enemy, to send a message. Other empires watched with growing dread, for humanity did not fight like them. They did not wage war for pride, or for territory, or for ancient grudges. They fought with cold efficiency, as though war itself was a science perfected in their blood. Every victory, every strike, was a reminder. The galaxy had been wise to fear them. On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Vera stood alone, watching the stars shift. As her fleet prepared for the next jump, she thought of Halora, of the voices that had cried out in defiance, of the oath that had been broken. Once, humanity had been content to remain apart, to let the galaxy burn while they rebuilt in silence. But now they had been called, and once called, they would not retreat. "Signal the fleets," she said. "The war is no longer theirs. It is ours." Her words echoed through the comms, through the ships, through the hearts of billions, and across the Orion Arm, as human fleets surged. Outward, the galaxy shuddered, not at the war itself, but at the realization that humanity had finally remembered who they were. The war had raged for decades. On one side stood the Dominion, vast, merciless, united beneath a banner of conquest. On the other, the Concord, a coalition of worlds desperate to resist extinction. Across the Orion Arm, stars burned and planets fell. Entire civilizations were erased, their names remembered only as coordinates on casualty maps, and in all this, only one major power remained neutral: Earth. Humanity had watched the war unfold from a distance. Their fleets never joined the great battles, their banners never flew in alien halls. While the galaxy clawed itself apart, Earth rebuilt its strength cloaked in silence. To some, humanity was cowardly. To others, cunning. But to all, they were irrelevant. That illusion ended the day the war came to Sol. It began with a clash near Jupiter. A Dominion fleet of 60 ships pursued a Concord strike force, tearing across the system like wolves chasing prey. The Concord. Vessels, crippled and desperate, veered into Sol's orbit seeking sanctuary, hoping humanity would grant them shelter. The Dominion followed without hesitation. To them, neutrality was weakness. They did not ask permission. They did not care. They fired on the conquered ships even as they crossed into Sol's skies, their plasma lances scarring the darkness above humanity's homeworld. For the first time in centuries, Earth was caught in another's war. On the bridge of the Iron Dawn, Commander Celine Ward watched as alien fire lit up the void. She had been trained for this moment her whole life. Though humanity had remained neutral, its fleets were not idle. Hidden beneath Luna's shadow, stationed at Mars, anchored in Titan's shipyards, Earth's armadas had grown vast, disciplined and silent. Ward's orders had always been clear: observe, prepare, but never strike first. Now that order was broken by outsiders. The Dominion had spilled fire into Sol. "Activate defense grid," Ward said, her voice steady despite the pounding in her chest. "Bring all fleets online. Humanity is no longer neutral." The galaxy had never seen human warships before. The Dominion expected crude designs, outdated relics of a backwater species. What emerged instead from the shadows of Sol made even the Concord gasp. Blackened hulls, bristling with cannons that hummed with suppressed fury. Carriers the size of small moons, their hangars glowing like the eyes of beasts. Destroyers with engines that pulsed like the heart of titans. The Iron Dawn led the charge. Ward did not ask for parley. She did not send warnings. She ordered fire. Railguns thundered. Hypersonic slugs ripped through Dominion shields like paper. Orbital platforms powered up, releasing storms of missiles guided by AI brains older than the war itself. Fighters swarmed like steel hornets, darting between cruisers and striking at their engines. The Dominion's 60 ships were reduced to 30 within minutes. The Concord watched in stunned silence. Celine Ward's eyes never left the tactical display. The Dominion had underestimated them, but they were not yet broken. Their remaining ships regrouped, firing in coordinated volleys that scorched humanity's outer defenses. A human frigate vanished in a blaze of fire, and Ward felt the loss. Like a knife. "Hold the line," she commanded. "Drive them outward." Her fleet obeyed with grim precision. Humanity had not built ships for show or for intimidation. They had built them to survive. Every weapon was simple but devastating. Every tactic ruthless. They did not fight for territory, nor for ideology. They fought with cold, unflinching efficiency, and as the Dominion fleet faltered, the Concord realized a terrible truth. Earth had been preparing for this all along. The battle ended at the edge of Saturn's rings. The last Dominion battleship, crippled and burning, attempted to flee. Ward let it go. "Leave them a messenger," she said. Her crew hesitated, then nodded. They understood. Fear would travel faster than any fleet. News spread like wildfire. The galaxy whispered of the day neutrality died, of the day humanity stepped from the shadows. Stories exaggerated, twisted, but all carried the same message. Earth had joined the war. In Concord chambers, ambassadors argued over whether to seek alliance or to fear humanity's rising star. In Dominion councils, commanders raged at their defeat, vowing vengeance. In distant empires, rulers whispered of an ancient predator awakened at last. But on Earth, there was no debate. The choice had been made. Commander Celine Ward stood before the Council of Humanity. The chamber was silent as she spoke. The Dominion violated Sol. The Concord brought their war to our skies. Neutrality is no longer possible. Our people have fought too long, bled too much, to remain on the sidelines while others decide the fate of the stars. She raised her head, her voice carrying like steel through the chamber. "We will not cower behind walls. We will not wait for the fire to come again. Humanity marches to war, not as pawns, not as allies, but as a power unto itself." The council rose in unanimous assent, and so the fleets departed. The galaxy trembled as human armadas surged outward, no longer hidden, no longer silent. They did not join the conquered, they did not submit to the Dominion. They struck where they chose, when they chose, reshaping battle lines in weeks that had been static for decades. Concord soldiers whispered prayers when human ships arrived. Dominion commanders cursed the name of Earth as their fleets shattered. War was no longer theirs alone. On the bridge of the Iron Dawn, Celine Ward watched as her fleet jumped into hyperspace. Her reflection glimmered against the glass, eyes hard, shoulders unbent. She thought of Earth's long silence, of neutrality that had once been wisdom, of the fragile illusion that humanity could remain apart. That illusion was gone. Now, the galaxy would learn the truth. Humanity had not been weak. They had not been afraid. They had been waiting. And now, as their ships cut across the stars like blades of vengeance, the galaxy shuddered. Not because humanity had joined the war, but because deep down, everyone knew the war would never be the same again.